What's up, strongest men, women, and children from blocks all around the world? I am my block's strongest man, and today I have for you a special guest interview, Jules Mansfield.
Ciao, homie.
Welcome back to My Block's Strongest Man, where we bring strongman into the mainstream by discussing all of the latest strongman events in the greatest analytic detail that you'll find anywhere on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to this channel. Make sure to comment below whether you agree or disagree with my videos. I love the engagement, and I respond to every single comment. Now on to today's topic. Hi, Jules. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. I really appreciate you joining. First, I just want to ask, are you in a part of the country that's affected by the storm of the century like I am?
No.
Over 2 feet.
We might be in a day or so. I'm in Michigan.
Okay, I'm in New Jersey, so I had over 2 feet of snow to shovel. That was my workout today.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So just kind of the way I'd like to start off is for people that don't know you, just take a minute to kind of brag about your accomplishments over the last year or so.
Well, I am a personal trainer and CrossFit instructor here at Building Your Temple CrossFit in Oxford, Michigan. I'm a single mom of 3. I'm currently in school full-time to be a massage therapist as well, and I do strongman as my passion.
Wow, you have a lot going on there. So how long have you been a personal trainer?
8 years now.
Okay. And do you focus kind of, I did it like many years ago. So do you focus kind of more on beginners, intermediate, advanced kind of clients? Where's your focus lie?
I tend to actually work with more specialized populations, people who have autoimmune disorders or people who are starting out. But I actually, over the past 9 years, I've lost over 200 pounds myself. So I tend to try to work with people that are, in the same spot I was.
That's fantastic. So how did you, what were the steps that you took to do that? I think that'll be a really inspiring story for my audience.
Well, it all started with a fire alarm in my house. I got really startled one night. My ex-husband was deployed at the time. He was in the Navy, and I took my son outside, and then I went to get my daughters, and I couldn't get up the stairs. I was too out of breath because I was so overweight and unhealthy, and that was my wake-up call. I got to do something. So I just started walking. I was actually a Zumba instructor for a while, and then I started with weights.
That's awesome. A great story. So how did you kind of spin that into getting involved with folks with autoimmune disorders? That's also a very kind of interesting story, I think.
I fell into it. I had a couple of awesome clients who happened to have that, and I just started studying more and more about that to help with that. Currently, most of my clients who have autoimmune, they're tending to work from home. They're choosing to do that because of the pandemic, but I have a lot of other clients who are still thankfully with me in the gym.
Okay, cool. And so what's kind of like 1 or 2 things that you do differently with clients of that population?
It's a lot of trial and error, just learning, because every situation is different. You have to learn what's going to possibility of starting up a flare. Also just trying to make sure that you're really sympathetic to the fact that they're almost always in pain of some kind, so that you have to make sure that you are being sympathetic, have a lot of empathy, and just work really hard to make sure that their exercise experience is enjoyable for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of takes a special person to be involved in something like that, so kudos for sure.
Oh, thanks. They make it easy.
I'm sure. So I was just wondering, kind of on the strong woman side of things, how many times do you usually compete per year?
Oh my gosh, I'm a chronic competitor. I tend to over-compete. When we weren't shut down last year, I competed in Michigan's Strongest, and the following weekend I was in Ohio competing again.
Wow, the following weekend.
Yeah, I don't know when to quit. I love being out, and I love the people. It's a family environment, so I just love being among all my strong family. Yeah,
I hear that a lot from the strength athlete competitors. When I ask, which I'll ask you later, like, what's your favorite thing about the sport? They almost, to a T, every single one says the community is fantastic.
It's it's the most supportive that I found out of any sport whatsoever. It's amazing.
Yeah, I actually do collabs with another YouTuber named Hunger Smash Fitness sometimes, and he's done, novice strongman before. And he tells me that, he did some powerlifting before that. And he said powerlifters are like to themselves, don't want to be bothered, get angry if you, say hello. And strongman is totally different than that. Like everybody's cheering each other on and, sharing food and stuff. And it's just a different environment.
Oh yeah, I spent a couple of weekends amongst powerlifters, and as soon as the workouts were over, I go, aren't we gonna go eat now?
That's funny. So kind of rewinding a bit, tell us something like interesting about your background or your roots that you think someone might find interesting.
Oh, golly. Anything in particular, or
are you from Michigan originally? Like kind of what was your upbringing like there?
I grew up with two brothers, and I think a big reason I got into strongman is I just enjoyed being outside. We had chickens, goats, all those kind of things, kind of grew up on a small farm type situation. And I've always been what one might call farm strong. So I just, one weekend, my current boss, Brian Bonet, who's also the state chair for the Michigan Strongman Corps, he was down judging Masters Nationals at Mammoth himself. One Saturday when I got here, he was just like, you should come try strongman. And I tried it, almost threw up, and just haven't quit since.
That's funny. That's kind of a story that I hear with some other strongman athletes as well. Gabby Bergholzer said the same thing, that she grew up on a farm in Austria, and kind of like the farm tasks get you strong.
Well, and I have a lot of lumberjacks in my ancestry, I found out. So,
oh, wow. That's interesting.
Maybe,
yeah. Maybe it's genetic. Interesting. So who was your hero growing up, and has that changed over the years?
I was a huge WWF watcher as a kid. So I started off as a huge Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake. Those were my favorite, guys. And then I evolved into a little bit of a, I guess, goth, and I really loved Undertaker. And I just remember watching old strongman competitions on TV with my brothers, and they'd always want to change the channel. I'm like, hold on, he's about to flip a car. And so I always kind of really liked it. So it seems almost natural that now I'm doing it myself.
Yeah. There has been crossover over the years, right? Like Polish Power Ivan Putski did strongman, Mark Henry, Nathan Jones. Like there's a bunch of them that kind of crossed over. Braun Strowman. So yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of, from like the past, there's a certain amount of showmanship that just kind of went hand in hand with the pro wrestling of that time.
Yeah, I think there was one that went the other way. Like Bill Kazmaier, I think, went into wrestling after strongman.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know a ton. You're a lot more affluent with it than I am.
Yeah, I love. It's funny. Like I do these interviews, and then I get in bed at night and watch like 1978 World's Strongest Man, 79, and like see kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, John Paul Sigmarsson was a big personality as well, and yeah, it's interesting. But the more I watched, the more like Jerry Blackwell, I think, was from the 70s, a wrestler. He didn't do well in World's Strongest Man, but. There were kind of a lot of them. The more you watch of the old ones, the more you see, oh, wait, that guy was a wrestler and that guy was a wrestler. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Interesting. Ken Patera was another one.
Yeah. I actually got to go to 93 SummerSlam when I was a kid. So that was like my big claim to being a huge wrestling fan when I was a kid.
Yeah. My big one was Stone Cold versus The Rock WrestleMania. So I saw that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a classic. And then, of course, I saw, I'm in New Jersey, so I saw ECW in Manhattan. And that was crazy. Like, did you ever follow Extreme Wrestling at all?
No, I don't have a whole lot of time to follow up with a lot of things.
Yeah, so they, I haven't in years either, but like they were known at that time for using like weapons, right? So there was this guy, Sandman, who would use like a 2x4 or a bat wrapped in barbed wire. and they fought into the crowd, and it was Hammerstein Ballroom, which was not a huge venue, and they were getting pretty close to me, so I was getting a little nervous.
That I can't imagine. I probably would have been like, oh, all right, it's time for, I'm going to take off, sounds like a good time to hit the concession stand.
Yeah, that's funny. But Undertaker's a good choice to root for. He actually, like, if you ever get interested in watching YouTube videos of them out of character, kind of telling stories behind the scenes stuff, like, he's the guy, he's the teacher of everybody else. He's like who everybody respects and trusts the most. So it's interesting that you chose him. Yeah,
the minute he came out, the year he came out with Paul Bauer, and they had the urn and all that stuff, it was love at first sight. I was gone then.
Yeah, years later when he changed into the motorcycle riding American Badass character, I'm like, no, bring the dead man back.
I know. I was like, all right, peace out. I'm done with that now.
Same here. Yeah. All right. So looking back now kind of at your childhood, was there ever a time as a kid, like lifting weird stuff where you can make a connection and say, oh, it all makes sense to me now why I'm into this?
I remember my dad brought home these 4 like huge oak logs, like that you could sit on, and like we would pretend they were other things, but then like my brothers and I wanted to roll them, and I liked that. So, it's like I'd be trying to push things. I was always trying to be stronger than my brothers, and coincidentally now I am, but that's my
I think you're stronger than a lot of people's brothers, but go ahead.
It's only important that I'm stronger than my brothers. That's all I really know. But I just had a phone call. But we would do that. We would, we chopped wood. Our house was wood stove heated, but yeah, just, we did all sorts of weird stuff with odd objects. I mean, we would collect rocks and things like that. So all those natural things that I think just wind you up into being into strongman, it all just rolls in.
Hey, maybe there's a future for my daughter. She's a big rock collector. We go out in the backyard, and all she wants to do is, Daddy, help me find some nice rocks. And it's funny. So maybe there's a future there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually now, whenever somebody has landscaping to do, they are calling me. Can you pick this rock up? Yeah.
It's funny. I actually redid the backyard for them a couple of years ago and kind of leveled it out. And, it's interesting because most people would get power tools and whatever. And I just like the challenge of, I'm going to do this by hand. I'm going to be sore for a month, but I'm going to do this by hand because, I like moving heavy stuff by hand. And so it was, getting a lot of soil out of there. And then when I brought in, I covered it with mulch. And so my backyard is elevated. There's a staircase. So there was no way for them to deliver the pallet of mulch into the yard. So I had to take bag by bag, and it was 300 bags or something like that of mulch. So, but, like I said, sure,
that's just a medley.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what first let me ask you this, first of all. I don't want to be offensive. Is it strongman for ladies or is it strong woman? What's proper?
I think that's everyone has a belly button, so everyone's opinion's going to be different. Just like having a belly button, everyone's is different. I like to say I compete in strongman as a strong woman. Because we do compete differently. I think technically it's the sport of strongman, but I'm a strong woman within strongman.
Okay, that makes sense. So how did you first find it? What first brought you to the sport?
Well, I was in the midst of changing gyms, and I quite literally harassed my current boss into giving me an interview, because at the time I was about 245 pounds, so I didn't look like a personal trainer or what one would imagine a personal trainer looks like. Mm-hmm. So I came back 3 times, and he finally gave me an interview and realized I knew what I was talking about, and he gave me a job. And then I just kind of started nestling, and I started dropping into CrossFit workouts. And then I showed up for that. And I'd always been interested in strongman because I watched it as a kid. And then when I saw that this is a strongman gym, I'm lucky enough to work at a strongman gym now. I showed up for a Saturday and they put me through the ringer, but then I couldn't get enough.
Yeah. So watching as a kid, was there someone in particular you liked watching the most?
I can't remember names specifically. Shame on me, but I just remember it was usually the guys that were working out in the jorts. I was like, they mean it.
So what is your favorite strongman, strongwoman event and why?
I love tires and I love truck pulls and probably yoke. Those are my three favorite and they're like my children and I can't choose between them.
Interesting. So,
but I love those three.
Cool.
Sorry.
So, what would you say is kind of like a typical training for week for you when there's no contest and then when there is a contest?
So I tend to work on, I'll have a squat day. It can consist of back squat, front squats, and I usually have a primary lift where let's say it's back squat, and then I'll have a secondary lift where let's say it's yoke runs and then some accessories, and then I'll have an overhead day, and it'll just depend on what implement I have. It could be log, it could be axle press, could be a barbell press. And then I usually have a secondary leg day, which will be deadlift or something like that. And then a fourth day, which will be, it's usually another overhead day, but it might have bench involved. And then I have event training on Saturdays, which is Strongman Saturday. And that's the best day of the week.
Of course. So one thing that really got my attention, I saw you squatting a person on Instagram. Like, you usually like doing unorthodox stuff like that? Are there other unorthodox things you do in the gym?
Well, so that was my work wife at Building Your Temple. She's one of the other personal trainers here. We've been here together for 3 years, but we call each other's work wife. And I was approached by a fireman's charity to do a fireman's carry, but in a squat. And so they wanted me to squat a person, so I ran over there in between sets and I squatted her.
Oh, that's funny. And it's interesting because it kind of ties back to our discussion earlier. Fireman's carry is a wrestling move.
That's how it was so easy to pick her.
Yeah. So feel free to pass on this question if you like, but have you ever had a serious injury and kind of, I think it would be inspirational to people that if you have, kind of how you work through it to keep progressing?
I'm currently working through one right now because at Mammoth I was injured in the farmer's carry. I went to pick and unfortunately my hip popped out, causing my muscles around the hip to tighten up a lot. But thankfully they had John Penley and Becky Wilson there, and they are two of the best in the country as far as taking care of us strongmen. And they were able to take care of me right away, and I'm healing really well. And I'm currently doing physical therapy, and I worked out today. I did some bench and I did a little bit of overhead just to kind of test that. Didn't really go super heavy, but just day by day. I have a great group of support here. I've got my boss Brian Bonet, and I've got my workout buddies who are all right behind me, and they know that I'm not going to quit, and they won't let me either. And I'm chronically optimistic, so I'm just like, I'll be back at it.
It's a good attitude. I think that's a good lesson for folks to learn.
I mean, I have pity parties. I was watching some of my lifting videos from the other day, and I was like, oh man, I really need to lift heavy. And it's more of just I miss lifting heavy, but it'll come back.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of Mammoth, kind of what attracted you to Mammoth in the first place? Like, how did it, quote unquote, come across your desk?
Well, this was the second time I competed in Mammoth. I did sign up for it last year, but I was unfortunately not able to go. But I competed in it 2 years ago. So 2018, I competed in it then. So, and then didn't happen. No, 2019. Sorry, I'm losing years. I competed in 2019 at Mammoth, but I was a heavyweight then, and then I signed up last year and didn't get to go. But Dave Waters is a great guy. He's super fun to have around. He came up here and helped us with our competition in November. So, it's just every time it comes around, I go, I'm not going to do it this year. And then I end up signing up for it.
That's interesting. So, so you were middleweight this year?
I was, middleweight open this year. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So what are your feelings about kind of the combination of the middleweights and the heavyweights together?
Well, one of my best friends is one of the other heavyweights, so I can't say too many negative things, or she might get upset with me. But I understand the reasoning why in order to allow people to get their Arnold invite. So I think it was a good move on Dave's behalf.
Okay, gotcha. Could I ask who your best friend is, or you don't want to say?
Oh, Anna Tapper.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, she's strong. I was following her.
We've both been in.
Yeah, I was following her on IG as well. Has some really impressive lifts. She was doing, I think, a pretty impressive circus on her IG.
Yes. Yeah, she's a very. We always say that if we could combine my bottom half strength to her upper half strength, we'd be unstoppable.
That's funny. Yeah, it was interesting though. I don't know if it was kind of a miss on the athlete list or what, but Anna wasn't on David's list. So it was actually Alila Worley who told me about the fact that Anna was competing.
She signed up a lot later.
Okay.
And I think that was the only reason why. She almost signed up probably a week and a half before the comp. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, another thing I was wondering, kind of, how do you feel like your prep was going into Mammoth? It looked good to me, but how do you feel like your prep was, and just overall, what was the experience there at the competition? How do you feel like your preparation fed into your performance?
I was very excited about going into this competition. I felt very prepared this time. Obviously, injuries will happen. Becky Wilson, she said to me after I got hurt, she said, when you play with iron, there's 100% chance you can get hurt. And she's 100% right. And, but I felt really prepared. I'd done all the weights for all of the events. I felt really good about it. It's just, things happen, and there's always next year.
Yeah. So which was the event that caused the injury?
I was going to pick the farmer's carry, and when I went to drive my knees out to pick, that's when I didn't really feel it happen. It was when I walked away from it. I knew something was up.
Okay. So I don't know if you kind of held them long enough to tell, but I heard some other athletes talking about how the grips on the farmers were slicker than they expected. Did you notice that as well?
They were like glass, polished glass.
All right, so we have
slippery.
confirmation.
Yeah, that was a smooth move, Dave.
Oh, that's a nice one. You got to make a hashtag on Instagram of that.
Because I walked in and I go, oh, there's those kind of farmer's handles. I was excited about it. And then I went to pick them at a lighter weight and I go, oh, no.
Yeah, maybe a lesson for him for next year to do like a grippy handle.
Yeah, or just, next time, double, triple, quadruple chalk.
Yeah. So kind of speaking of Dave, he had, I think it was just for the sandbag record breaker for the men, he has a situation where if you break the record, he'll pay out every year until someone else breaks the record. So kind of a two-part question. I was just wondering, what do you think of that idea? Do you think it should be extended to the women? Do you think it should be extended to the other record breakers? Just generally speaking, what do you think of that idea?
Well, I don't have too much of an opinion on that, honestly, because until I'm actually doing it, I'll not concern myself with it too much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So my next question was going to be, would you return to Mammoth next year? I'm assuming yes, because you did 2 already, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I would love to go back. I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled with my press medley when it happened. The block and I are a bit of nemesis with each other, so I always like to go and teach it who's boss. If you go far enough into my IG history, you will actually see the block meeting my face.
I think the block is a nemesis for everybody. A lot of people had problems with it. So what are your thoughts about what makes it so hard for so many people?
Well, number one is getting your hands on an actual Mauser block. So if you haven't actually, so a lot of people had to train with like 100-pound plates, or they have to blocks of cement. I was lucky enough, one of my local strongmen, Chuck Northrup, he goes by Goth Strongman. I was lucky enough that he has a women's Mauser block, and he allowed me to train with it during this cycle. So I was very lucky to get my hands on that. So I think that's why I had a lot more confidence with it going in this time. But it is it's a different animal than other presses, because, you know, you get used to the log with the grip here, you get used to the axle here, and then you got that block, and it's shifty, it can be slippery, and you gotta really that is to a T strongman right there with those odd objects.
Right. I mean, is there specialized like thumb grip training that you have to do to be able to handle a Mauser block?
I have a lot of grip training in my training regardless, so I think that may have given me a little bit of help with that. But yeah, you definitely want to train yourself to grip training. I can't emphasize that enough with strongman, is that, and there's a lot of different exercises you can do to help with that, but also just having good hand mobility as well, because if your hands get cramped being like this, because it's going to press right into there, it can be almost painful to go through the press.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine some of the training techniques cross over with arm wrestling, like with some of the top tier arm wrestlers, what they do for grip training.
It could. I don't do a whole lot of arm wrestling.
Yeah, they have, like, if you look up Devin Larratt, for example, he's like one of the most well-known arm wrestlers, and he has all kinds of crazy grip contraptions that you might find more familiar than I.
Yeah, we have a few tools here at Building Your Temple. We have Rolling Thunder here, so we do a lot of.
Yep.
We do one where you'll put the lacrosse balls in your hand and you hang off of a bar. And
oh wow!
I'd like to say it's fun, but that I would say fun.
That's really interesting. Cool. So we kind of touched on this before, but just you want to elaborate a little bit just about what do you like most about strongman?
Well, besides the community, I love the results I've gotten from it. I've never been healthier. I've never been, I'm the smallest I've ever been in my life. I've always been a bigger person, but I'm the smallest I've ever been. I also just feel the strongest and the healthiest that I've ever felt too. So that's a huge bonus of strongman, but also just the community, especially all my strong family here at Building Your Temple. I mean, they've literally saved my life, so I can't thank them enough.
Right. That's really inspiring. So what would you talked about your favorite events being yoke, and then what else did you say?
Tire and, and truck pulls.
Okay. So I would say of those three, if I wanted to build my skills, yoke would be the most likely for me to get my hands on. What are tips that you would give me if I wanted to learn how to do yoke and how to improve at it? What's your best tips?
Well, if you can't get your hands on a yoke, a really great way is like if you can do box squats, because that's going to help you with that stand. But
Okay.
also you can also do like say you're in a rack with a squat, you can also load up a little bit heavier weight and just march in place with the bar on your back. That'll help you build strength for the yoke as well. It's a lot. You want to work the core a lot with the yoke because you have to be stabilized in order to move with it.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. You're giving me a lot of,
But
like,
you can train tires too.
I just don't know where to get one that's large.
Just do deficit deadlifts. You'll get it. Deficit deadlifts. That's all tire flipping is.
That's what it is. Okay, interesting.
That can help with that. And well, being a personal trainer, I sometimes have people ask me to do that. So you're asking. I'd hope that I could help you out with that.
Yeah, I mean, no, I've lucked out today. I'm asking the right person these questions. It's wonderful. So, what kind of advice would you give somebody who's thinking about getting into strongman for the first time?
Just try it. It can be intimidating, but we really are the most inviting people. We want to see everyone succeed. And the most important thing is to never compare yourself to somebody else. Just compare yourself to who you were yesterday and how much better you're going to be the next time. Because it can be really intimidating to walk into this environment and see the giant sandbags and see everything. But if you find the right gym, you're going to find that everybody just wants you to succeed. Everyone wants you to do your best. And even if you don't necessarily pull big numbers, we're still going to cheer for you.
That's really great to hear. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was we talked a lot about strongman so far. What other hobbies do you have outside of strongman?
Are moms allowed to have hobbies?
Fair enough.
I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of reading. I like to travel. I enjoy hiking. And I have my dogs, and yes, I have a dog that's named after a strong man. And I just spend a lot of time with my kids and my dogs.
Interesting. Okay. And then one other thing that I noticed on your Instagram that kind of makes you unique is you have kind of thankful days, and you count each day and kind of what you're thankful for that day. And I kind of tried to count how many days it was, and I think it's since the beginning of the year. Is that right?
Yes.
So how did that come about? Yeah, how did that come about, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I used to do a picture of the day, and instead of doing that, I wanted to make it something more. So, and there are days where it's just really hard to have gratitude towards something that could have happened. And I think it's really important just to every day look at something that made you thankful for that day, whether it could be that you had a really good grilled cheese sandwich or something, but still, were you grateful for it? Were you thankful for it? So I think it's just a mindset thing to try to continue just to be positive and to be thankful for each day.
Yeah, I think that's really inspiring. Most people are thankful just on one day of the year. So it's really a nice, unique thing to see, and to inspire people to kind of think that way. I think it's a nice, positive message.
I just want people to know that it's like, it doesn't matter where you start. I started off at 379 pounds when I started my fitness journey, and I'm where I'm at today. And there's hard days and there's good days, and there's days where you don't want to, but you just have to get up and you have to tell yourself you deserve to be healthy, and you deserve to work out, and you deserve to treat yourself and your body the best that you can. And instead of saying I have to, say I deserve to.
That's an interesting twist. I'll try to think that way myself. That's great. So another kind of to wrap it up, I was just wondering what's next and exciting in your future that you'd like to share.
I have some really exciting goals for 2021. there's some numericals, there's some just progression goals, and I'm really excited, and I'm really excited a lot of my clients are getting to a new point in their training where it's like, guess what, guys, we're not looking at the scale anymore. We're going to be looking at different numbers, and I'm so excited to just see what 2021 brings. I mean, yes, I'm healing right now, but you know, I'm excited because I'm going to come back stronger. I just know it. So those are my big goals for 2021 is just to kind of, wait and see. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 2020 was so hard on so many people. I think it can only get better from there.
Absolutely. I mean, and honestly, if everybody were to look back on 2020, I'm sure we all learned really important lessons, and yes, we were frustrated, and yes, we were locked up and everything. But I think if you look back, you can be like, okay, there was still important lessons in 2020. And I know that's so cliche to say, but really and truly, it was like, I think we had to take it back and appreciate the little things that we could do rather than what we couldn't do.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of the last thing to wrap up is I just want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody how they can follow you and promote anything that you'd like to promote, whether it be your gym, a sponsor, whatever you like.
Well, I'm currently an ambassador for Muscle Pirate. I work out at Building Your Temple in Oxford, Michigan. It's an awesome strongman gym. The Michigan State chair for Strongman Core happens to own it. His name's Brian Bonet. He's an awesome person. His name's Big Brian Bonet on IG. I'm Jules, kind of strong woman. I like to do everything kind of tongue in cheek. Like I said, I just like to be positive. I like to make people smile. And if you're looking for somebody on Instagram that kind of puts up some funny memes, I can't be as funny as Gabby, or Christine, but sometimes I try.
Yes, both cool women. I've interviewed them both. They're both both cool women. Awesome.
I really wanted to meet Gabby, but unfortunately I was injured before I got to meet her. But Christine and I, we've competed together a couple of times, and we've had a blast.
Yeah, Christine is like the type, so I interviewed her right after the competition, and she's the type where you kind of feel like you're her friend right away the first time you talk to her.
Absolutely. See, I'm a little bit different at competition. I tend to kind of put up a wall, and I'm trying to stop doing that, but right. I'm trying to be more outgoing when I'm at competitions now. Yeah,
I actually it's funny because I saw an article yesterday about at some zoo in Washington, D.C. or something oh, look, the pandas are sliding down the snow. So, she goes by Panda Small But Swole. So I said, I thought this was you before I look at the picture. So she's laughing out loud.
Well, so I call her the panda, and I'm a trash panda.
Oh, that's funny. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jules, so much for joining. I think the audience is going to get a lot of great information and great inspiration out of this interview, and definitely we should connect again in the future.
Oh, absolutely. I'm game.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Bye. So if you like this video and haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing using that button right there. And also stay tuned for some other videos that you might love blooping up right there. This one is the one that YouTube thinks that you will like the best, and this one is the one that I think you will like the best. As always, share this with everyone, and until next time, ciao, homie.